most welcome to this Favre webinar in the series that I think we call basically agile leadership. And I'm joined today, with Jerome and with Haltor. And being Swedish, I guess I'm totally bastardizing both your names here. So I'm going to give you a chance to correct me here in a second. And the theme today is really that the media landscape is changing quite a bit. And for the ones of you who have been to one of our webinars before, what we do here is that we invite someone who's a Favre client, and we do a bit of a deep dive into their challenges. And the Favre customers are quite widespread, but it's everything from big enterprises like Disney and PwC and SAP, to a lot of venture-backed startups. But there's one category of customers that we have a kind of large portion of, which is media companies. It's mostly game companies, but we also have companies that are active within film and within TV. So generally speaking, the media industry is a big customer base. And a little bit earlier this spring, I had a conversation with Jerome around these kind of topics, and we thought, okay, it would be nice to actually have a bit of a deep dive in webinar form around this. And we're also joined here by Haltor, which is really cool because they are actually our newest Favre Agile partner. And what that means is that many of our customers, we're a product company. We don't do any consulting services, but the companies that are buying Favre, they typically do that as part of a bigger journey where they do kind of a transformation into working in a more agile way. So quite often they're asking for, is there a consulting company that can help us with this? So both understand agile transformation, but also are experts in the tool. So since a while back, we have an agile partner in the US, and now to cover Scandinavia, we got Haltor joining us here, which is the newest partner, and in the future there will be an announcement also about an Italian partner. So so this is something there's been a lot of interest for, and that we have expanded. So so with that said, I'm just going to do like a quick framing here of the conversation, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper. So basically, if we look at the media landscape, there's a lot of things that have happened recently that are not only disruptive, but like super disruptive. One of the things is that film and TV is for sure not what it used to be. I remember I've always been a bit of of a movie buff. I always really like movies, and it was always like that. Movies, that was the good stuff, and TV was kind of like second grade, right? It's almost like it turned around now. It's like if you look at the landscape today, a lot of the most premium content you will find on Netflix, HBO. If you look at what Disney now is doing with Disney Plus, it's really it's really a different landscape. And of course, being kind of the geek that I am, I'm very excited about what's going to happen now with Lord of the Rings and and Amazon. And if you look at the amount of money they paid for those rights to do that, it's quite astonishing. So there's a massive change that happened there, and the way that we consume is also very different. We today it's subscription based, and that's how we buy, and that of course goes across so many industries, and definitely within media. We have other things like, for example, I remember that in one of the annual reports from Netflix, they were stating that the biggest competition here is not HBO. The biggest competition here is Fortnite, because we're competing for people's time. And if you look at what's been happening now during COVID, it's been an issue with content for TV and film, because it's been hard to produce. At the same time, you're seeing that game companies that have been able to operate in a distributed fashion where working from home has not been an issue, they have thrived. And today, the game industry is bigger than the movie and the music industry combined. So you have all these changes that have happened. Now, this also means that it changes, how we work, how we collaborate. What's going to be the new normal after COVID? Seems like everyone's talking about this right now. Are we, after COVID, going to go back to the normal way? We're going to go back to our offices, or are we going to have more of a hybrid approach or even fully remote? And what it seems like is that a lot of companies are moving towards more of a hybrid approach. And there's been surveys that basically say, the ones I read have mostly been from the US, but I think it's probably about the same also in Europe. And when people are asked, they will say that if they can work 2 or 3 days from home, or 2 or 3 days from the office in a week, that will be the ultimate for them. And a lot of companies are simply now moving into that. So we're going to talk a bit about that as well. But enough of framing the subject from my point. I want to jump in here to my webinar guests. And Jerome, Riks TV out of Norway is a superstar company, have an amazing reputation, but I would dare saying that the whole kind of origin of how you came to be, so to say, has a bit to do with all these changes that I was talking about now. But I'll leave that to you. So maybe if you can just tell us a little bit about how this company came to be, and how you fit into all these kind of changes happening right now.
Yes, first, thank you for your invitation, Patrick. A really interesting topic, so I'm really happy to be here to talk about it. You had a very good introduction about how the media industry is changing, and I'm going to explain how it has affected the Riks TV and how we've adapted over the last years. So for those who don't know about us, we're a Norwegian TV aggregator. We have about 10% market share in the Norwegian market. We're a subscription-based company, and we launched about 15 years ago with a very traditional business model. So we were on a DTT network, so terrestrial network, and we were proposing subscriptions with basically just 15 live TV channels to our customers in Norway. So quite traditional, quite easy business model. And then we saw that the market started changing after a few years. And the biggest change was Netflix. And they launched in Norway in 2012. And after that, it was quite obvious that things started to change in a faster and faster way. And the market started going towards streaming. So less about traditional broadcasting, traditional packaging, and much more about streaming. And it meant a lot for the whole industry. The viewers went from traditional TV watching commercials to more and more streaming. So it disrupted the whole industry. In the beginning, most actors didn't really change their ways of working. But as you mentioned now, with Disney Plus and HBO Max, and things are really happening at a huge pace. And a few years ago, or many years ago, what we saw is that it was strategically key for our success to become an agile company, because things are going to change so fast. Our partners are going to change so fast that we need to adapt to that new situation. And so we went from being a quite traditional company to being a company that became a hybrid company, doing both traditional broadcasting and streaming. And we went from a traditional organized company to a 100% agile way of working. So that's kind of the start of our journey there.
And I think that's a great cue here, actually, for Haldor to come in. because you talked about, why, you wanted to become an agile company, Jerome, and Haldor, what, from your point of view, what is typically, the kind of, triggering thing that, makes a company decide, okay, we really need to embark on this journey. They will give you a call, they want help with this change. I mean, what is the typical trigger points?
I would say that when a company starts thinking about maybe to expand or get more out of the working force that they have, and see that the market around them are changing, that's for the most of them the tricky point to see, to start looking at the new things they can do and ways of working, so they also can keep up with the market. And they often start with all traditional waterfall development and so on in IT department, and also when they see that in different areas, see that the people are changing, but the organization is old-fashioned yet. So they see the need to be open to new thinking and new ways of working in the working force, instead of not necessarily in the management, but to see how they can adjust and fulfill the needs to the market in a different way, because everyone has to adapt to the new ways of working now, and those who has started know that that's a new start, and the old ones, if we can call them that, are curious and wants to see what can be done. So yeah, I would say that.
So a follow-up question on that. Do you? I mean, I think it's an old truth in kind of change management that if you are in a deep crisis, change is actually relatively easy to achieve because everyone wants to survive, so to say. Yeah. Versus if you have a company where maybe the leadership of the company see that we are on our way to get into trouble or miss an important opportunity, but maybe the organization thinks, hey, we're fine. Is this a typical situation that you see, and what do you typically do then to kind of get that awareness in the teams that change is important?
Yeah, good question, because when a company is in crisis, if you take that one first, they are more or less desperate to do something, but not necessarily know what to do. And then we start see on what do they do, what do they have, and how is the ability to change both the people and the organization, and maybe the production as well. And then we go in and see where we can start adjusting and do something with the bottlenecks that we can find, and then start working more and more agile. So being agile is not a journey that takes 1 month or so. It takes up to maybe a year to get in the pace of working agile. And along the way, we had to do many adjustments and redo any adjustment as well. So and the tool set that they have is also a big part of this.
I would say it's definitely a journey that can take several years. It's a never-ending business. Once you start there, you are passionate about driving more change, and the organization becomes also passionate. Yeah. But it has to start with a deep understanding on where you are, and that you are extremely transparent and open on the challenges, how the industry is changing. What does that mean for you? And that I mean, it has to. Everybody has to understand why you're doing it. And you never underestimate the number of times you repeat those things, and you never underestimate the number of times that you discuss those issues, and you have to be more and more open and transparent about why you're doing it.
Exactly, and I also always start with asking what do we not change at this moment, because there can be a lot of fear and for losing their jobs and whatever when we start up, and then we also make a list of what are we not going to change at this moment, and so they don't have to be afraid of these things then.
That's a very good idea. Have you also seen, if I start with you, Jerome, from a recruitment point of view, do you find that this is an important part of recruiting talent, also making you more competitive from that point of view, or would you say that kind of business agility is not really anything that the talent think about? Or I mean, what's the kind of recruitment angle here? What's your experience there?
Our experience is that it's extremely important. If you're going to recruit good talents those days, that has to be one of your key promises. We have a very clear experience about it. A few years ago, we had, for example, 0 IT developers in-house. And when we started thinking of recruiting people, it was really, really hard. To start building internal workplace and explaining why you should come to our company, what is so exciting about joining us. And today, many years after that, we can see the exact opposite. Is that it's a very easy story to sell to people who want to come to XTV, because of the way we're working. We've quite often are used as references in the Norwegian market on how we've changed over time. And everything we're trying to do and achieve around that, it's a really great story to sell to people who would like to join the company. And I think especially if you're looking at, for example, developers, it's extremely important for them that the company and the whole company, not just the IT part of it, but has that mindset and wants to work that way.
How do you, I mean, if we turn it around a bit, instead of looking at, this, making the company attractive, but also looking at what's the new requirements for the people now that we want to pull in, is there a change in the way you see it? Is there somewhat different skill sets that you're looking for to fit well into a company that has come quite far in being agile?
Yeah, I think if by skill sets you're referring to cultural skills, it's definitely something that's really important. You have to think differently in terms of wanting to work in a team, not be interested in your own success, but that the whole company is succeeding, understanding and wanting change and accepting that you might work on something this month, and in a couple of months from now, we're going to have focus on this because this is the thing that's the most important to us. So have the willingness to adapt, to be really interested in changes, and not think I first, but us as a team first. That's really key.
Haldor, from your point of view, have you seen that your clients have also updated their thinking around who they're looking for? Or
oh yes, and that's part of the things that we also try to make the client aware of, that you have to attract new kinds of people, and it always ends up with team players, because you don't get any further with people who are very, very old-fashioned, sitting in a dark office in the end of the day to work. So you're always looking for agile people and people who wants to adapt new changes and so on, and also keen to have the team be a part of the interviewing process and so on, to see if the person fits into the team and so on, because it's more more on the personality than always, as for before, very keen to have everything on stake on the knowledge and so on. Because if you have an adaptable person in the team, they will always learn what they need to do in the team. So we're looking for people with the hunger to do new things.
Yeah, let me share two things around that. One is, I often use the term T-shaped personality, as in, T, that, when you're hired, especially on a junior role, I mean, there's some kind of speciality you have, but you need to have that like also with, because it becomes so much easier to collaborate when there's an interest and at least some kind of basic skills around what the other people are doing. So if we talk about, let's say development, let's say a programmer, but that also understands, quality assurance, have a rudimentary understanding of design, etc. It becomes so much easier for them to work together as a group if they have that kind of somewhat overlapping on, on that T.
Yes.
The second thing, I would like to share, because you mentioned this thing with, having the team more involved. And one of the best examples I've seen among our clients, this is one of our American clients, what they do is that they have a process for recruiting people that's, let's say, a little bit more general, where they're very focused on, kind of, what kind of type do they look for. And it's a lot, that kind of T-shaped personality thing. But then once they are in the final stage or maybe even hired, what happens is that then the squad leaders of the various squads, they pitch to these new recruits why they should come and join their squad. And I think it's such a great practice because for several reasons. One is that the person who comes in will feel so appreciated. It's like, okay, now someone is like pitching to me, why I should come and join their particular squad and why they are the coolest ones to join.
Yeah.
But also it creates a very strong feeling of ownership from the squad's point of view. It's like the squad leader becomes like the CEO of the squad, and it's like a little startup within the bigger company, and they're like, well, we're going to be the most attractive squad to come work for at this company. And I think it's a very good practice to practically achieve some of these things.
Yes.
I would like to move on a little bit here. So when it comes to culture, and Halvor, you mentioned before tools. I'm obviously quite biased in that question, and what I often talk about is organizational gravity. That when you try to achieve some kind of change, there are going to be these kind of things that pulls you back. It can be incentive systems, it can be old culture, but also tools is one of the strongest contributors to organizational culture. So we often see that companies that do a lot of things right, and then they go on they buy Jira, and which is very like centralistic, so you say, oh, we want to have autonomous teams, but by the way, if you want to update any process in your tool, you have to call IT, which is not great. And but without talking about Favre specifically, when it comes to organizational gravity, what do you see as kind of the biggest forces that pull the organization kind of back into the old, and you kind of have to fight a little bit against? Jerome, have you had that experience, or maybe you still have that experience?
Yes, I think what's key is that you choose tools that support the culture that you want to have. And as you're saying, there are some pitfalls in there because however good the tools are, you might want to go back to the old way of doing it. And so we've for example chosen tools as you guys, Favreau, and as well as Slack, for example, And one of the ideas there was to have very open tools and flexible tools, and increase the communication within the company. But whether you're choosing that or that tool, you always have that pitfall that people could have like a closed channel on Slack, for example, or they would not post enough information or explain what they've done, or showed on Favreau where to find those things. So the cultural dimension is extremely important for people to use those tools in the way you want, and promote open communication, and let the team talk to each other and work with each other.
Cool. Haldor?
Yeah, I would say that I totally agree with you, of course, but it's also the ability of the tool to adapt to the change, because you don't want the new organization, if you can call that, to adjust to the tool. I want the tool to be adjusted to the new business, because then you can have fully value from the tool. Then, if you can adjust it along the way, if you change roles or you change the teams or whatever, or want to collaborate with the other teams and so on. I want the tool to be adjustable in a way that you can try out new things, and you can finally decide on this is the way we want to work. And also a big importance in the way of working in agile teams is that you want this loose kind of working. If you heard of the tight loose tight methodology, that the tight part is the goal and the objectives that you are aiming for, and the loose in the middle is the way you do the work, and then the tight in the end is then the follow-up and learnings and so on, and
easily adapt and adjust your way of working to the new tool then. So I think that's the best part of the Favreau, is that you can easily adapt new ways of working and to fit all levels in the organization.
Yeah, I mean that's if we go back to why we created this in the first place. I mean, what we saw was that because my fellow co-founders and I, we built another company before that was very focused on helping software development teams become more agile. So it was very kind of enterprise grade and focused on the software teams. But then we saw that the whole the agile way of working was crossing over to other teams, like marketing, operations, HR, basically everyone, because that's the world is changing so fast. So adapting to change is becoming so important, not only for software developers but for the whole company.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing today is that if you look at an organization, having the product development become, let's say, 10% more efficient or so, it doesn't matter so much, because the biggest problem, the biggest pain, is to get product to be in sync with marketing, to be in sync with operations, to be in sync with community management, because everything is happening. I mean, my favorite example are game developers, because if it used to be back in the days that you develop the game for 3 years, and then it's done and you ship a disc, you put it in your PlayStation, and it's just not how it works today. It's like today it's a continuous product, and there will be drops of content and features pretty much every week, and marketing has to keep up with releasing that. And I think we see this happening with almost every industry, that's becoming more and more like this. So this kind of ability to be in sync is key. And it's very the military actually discovered this a long time ago, that having very centralized command doesn't really work. You need to have what's called mission command, and decentralized command, where going back to what you said, Halder, about tight, loose, tight. The mission needs to be very clear, but exactly figuring out how to achieve that, that needs to be up to the teams, and very often, if that requires collaboration between product and marketing and others, then there's a need for a very collaborative planning, which is exactly what Favre was designed for. So this is a change in the market that would happen with or without us. We simply saw what's the challenge coming up here, and we wanted to make like a next generation product for it.
I think you're pointing to one of the biggest pitfalls that we've seen in our journey, is that people think autonomous teams. That's where you start. That's where everybody starts in the agile journey. And as you're talking about collaborative tools, for example, and the collaborative part, it's all about a hugely complicated balance exercise. Because you want to both have the autonomous teams and everybody is aligned and collaborate towards the same goals. So you need to keep that balance, and it's I think the biggest pitfall that we've seen in our agile journey is that you want to go autonomous, and then you forget about that dimension, which is the most important dimension in the agile principles.
Yeah, I agree. Because when you change it.
Yeah, I have this. I often like to say that alignment enables autonomy. If you're able to achieve that alignment, without centralization and without traditional command and control, that it's almost like the contract, the trust contract that allows the teams to be highly autonomous. If everyone's just kind of going in different directions, for a while it might feel good that it's like, yeah, we're autonomous, but it's going to be it's not going to be great for the company. And unfortunately, I think one of the common mistakes that happens is that you have an organization and they try a high level of autonomy, but they did really think about okay, so how do we achieve alignment in a modern way without centralization and without command and control? And then the teams are kind of all going in different directions, and then senior management says, well, this didn't work so well, and and then they go back to kind of old school again, and that's a very sad story.
Yeah, and what I was saying is that when you're changing in our organization, you are not actually changing the organization, but you are changing the people working there, and to get a successful change, you need to have autonomous and agile people working there, and then the change of the organization will come naturally along the way. So the culture is very important, and the ways of working with the right tools is also a driven part in the culture and changing, I think.
I think that's a very good point to wrap up this conversation. In the end of the day, any organization is a group of people, and it's really all about that. So with that said, again, Jerome, congratulations on all the success with the company. And Haldur, super happy to have you on board as a Favre Agile partner. All of you who's listening, you're going to see much more about this in the future. And with that said, again, thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you in the next webinar.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.